There's something that meditation had taught me recently. So, funnily enough, in the past, I want to say 12 years, I had started meditating as a teenager. And as a kid, I was someone who really liked um, video games, anime, all that kind of stuff, the nerdy stuff. But I also was like really into metaphysics. I didn't know it was metaphysics that then. I just kind of felt, I intuited that like superpowers were real. Like you could do more than just what we kind of see on the day to day. But I didn't really know how you would do it. I always thought if you ever were like a kid who would be in the shower or moving the water and trying to force like, telekinetics and all these other sort of superpowers. Mind reading, all that stuff. Something just felt like maybe it's possible. And you go on old websites, at least I would, the very badly made websites that would tell you, oh, you can have what they call ESP. And it was from there that I started to learn about like meditation. And I watched a very old meditation video that like, and I know I was doing it wrong. But the reason I bring this up is because that moment and the moments after that, because I would still meditate afterwards, even after I sort of let go of those ideas, something about meditation made sense to me, even if I wasn't really quote unquote doing it correctly. And it only got to this year, where I kind of felt like I wasn't taking it seriously enough, and for me, just not taking it seriously has just been like half-assing it. Like I would do what you would do if you wanted like general well-being, where you could like not feel depressed, not feel like the thoughts are going crazy, which is great. I think normal, healthy mental state is good, and you kind of need that to go anywhere further. But I now know that my trajectory is much further, so of course I had to do something different. And so I was gonna go for 3 hours. Really, I kind of went for 2 hours and 30 minutes. And when I went to go do the meditation, something had came up that had always come up. Every meditation session I've ever had since I was 17. For reference, I'm 30 now. And that was fear. I would sit down and meditate, and after a little bit, there would be something, a fear of something. A fear that I need to go check the door if it's locked. The fear that someone will call. The fear that I get caught. The fear that something bad would happen. Like mundane things, like something bad would happen to someone else and the phone rings. If I sit down. So for whatever reason, I've had a fear and anxiety that if I sat down to meditate for too long, something bad would happen. And then that would grow. That would grow to, oh, what if I go into psychosis? Now, mind you, I never really meditated for longer than like, I had to go with stints where I'd meditate for like maybe long times, but most of them were very small amounts. Very small, very doable, no actual way for you to get messed up. Yet the fear would persist. It was only till, let's say a few days ago, that I realized that was one of the things I was supposed to be working on. That meditation was trying to show me, that my inner self was trying to show me that I had to work on. Before, I would just be afraid, right? And it was this moment where I had fear, where fear rose up within me. And I could recognize that this energy is fear. And with that, there was a dissolving. And it happened naturally. And there's another thing it taught me that I may make another video about, is that the letting go of limiting beliefs is natural. It happened naturally. I didn't think about how to or visualize. The fear came up and I recognized what it was, that it was fear rising. And therefore, I dissociated from it. I was no longer afraid. I just had the energy of fear, which I knew. And what made it, I think, integrated was that I started to realize that, oh, this fear wasn't a fear of meditation. I wasn't afraid of meditating. I was just afraid. I was just a person who was in fear of the frequency of fear. And it makes sense. I grew up in a very high-stress environment. I grew up with a very stern, harsh, angry father, and that anger I had experienced since I was like 3-4 years old. I have very early memories of being very terrified, being a very small child, being very terrified. And that fear sort of jumping to things, right? It would jump to nightmares. It would jump to fear of trying stuff. It would jump to fear of rejection. And so I would live a life of fear. And there'd be moments in like high school or college where I tried to fight it and force my way through it, like resist it basically. And for a moment it would work, but I would always fall back to it. And this was the first time where I, now at 30, dissolve it, where I can recognize when I'm afraid of something and now just sort of transcend it. And typically, it's the same thing. You just do the thing. When I say like, okay, well, this is this, and it's like tiny. Sometimes it's subtle. It's not as big as like getting, taken by ice, for example, or getting killed by somebody, or getting a disease. It's not necessarily those types of fears. It's maybe a subtle, for example, being transgender, right? There's a fear of, if people hear my voice, they'll misgender me. Subtle, not something I think every day. And when I'm out and about, that's something that comes across my mind, especially when I dress pretty femme. But when I'm at work, it's a little bit harder. But that's tiny fear. It's there in the back of my mind, and it guides decisions. It's subconscious. It's not something I'm not thinking about it all the time, but it will subtly decisions. Now that I'm more aware of it, though, I can just nip it in the bud. And it doesn't really matter the effects. I start to learn that, like, what I was afraid of, that sort of thing starts to not matter to me as much, because here I am right now, still alive, still pushing, still moving forward, still trans, right? So that fear, which I had, and it goes with relationships, taking the initiative in my relationships, making videos. For example, deleted my YouTube channel, made a new one. And I've been wanting to do that for a while. A lot of times I've been fearing of stuff that I've been wanting to do for a while, but I was afraid of all the things. But I feel so great that I've gotten rid of that channel now. And I have this new one. I'm really grateful that, like, I sat and I had to, it took a little bit. It took like 2 or 3 meditation like sessions to, like, where I was afraid and I was like, I'm just going to sit through this. I could feel the fear rise, and I was like, no, I'm just going to sit through it, and it passed. And that is actually not crazy, but it's actually kind of, no, I would say it's crazy. It's crazy how simple it was. But how it took me like 12 years. It took me 12 years to realize. And I don't know. It makes me now realize part of the purpose of meditation, right? Like, I've been meditating for a while. I've done a lot of spiritual practices, and I would get benefits from it. But there would be a thing where I would go through a session, whatever spiritual practice session, and I would come out feeling good. But I would go to my day-to-day lives, and it always felt like I had to force things. I had to fight through, my ego reactions of anxiety, of fear, of anger, of survival. And this is the first time where I could just let it be and know that it takes care of itself. Like the fact that it does really feels like it takes care of itself. And that's really, I think, about to change my trajectory of my life and where I know I can go now when it comes to the decision I make. But yeah, that's the video.